The champagne glass shattered against the wall behind my head, spraying crystal shards across my graduation dress. My father's face was purple with rage, veins bulging in his neck as he screamed words that would haunt me forever. "You're a disgrace to this family, Margaret. Your brother got into Harvard. You barely passed community college." I smiled. That's what broke him completely. "My name is Margaret Chen, and I'm 27 years old." The night that was supposed to celebrate my associate degree became the night I destroyed my family's lies. But to understand how we got there, you need to know that my father, Richard Chen, had been grooming my younger brother Daniel for greatness since birth while treating me like I was invisible. Every achievement I earned was dismissed. Every failure was magnified. For 27 years, I was the family disappointment. If you want the full truth about what happened next, hit like so this story reaches more people. The graduation dinner was at Marcello's, the most expensive Italian restaurant in Boston. My mother Linda had made the reservation 3 months ago, back when she still thought this dinner was about me. The white tablecloth gleamed under candlelight. My extended family surrounded the table: Aunt Patricia, Uncle James, my grandparents, all there to witness what they assumed would be another chapter in the Margaret failure story. I had worn my best dress, navy blue with pearl buttons. Daniel sat across from me in his varsity jacket, 24 years old and glowing with the arrogance of someone who'd never been told no. His acceptance to Harvard Law had arrived 2 weeks ago. Since then, our house had been insufferable. "Margaret finally finished her little college program," my father announced to the table, his tone dripping with condescension. He raised his wine glass, but not in celebration. 2 years at community college. Meanwhile, Daniel's heading to Harvard Law in the fall. My grandmother actually clapped. My mother looked at her plate. Uncle James cleared his throat. "Well, education comes in many forms. Don't patronize her," my father snapped. "Margaret knows she's not Harvard material. She's never been Harvard material. We've accepted that." The table fell silent. Even the waiter hovering nearby seemed uncomfortable. "That's why tonight is really about Daniel," my father continued, pulling out an envelope. "We wanted to make this dinner special for Margaret, but let's be honest about what we're really celebrating." Something inside me snapped, not the loud, dramatic kind of snap, the quiet, calculated kind that changes everything. I reached into my purse and pulled out my own envelope, cream-colored, heavy stock, with a crimson seal that everyone at that table would recognize. "Actually, Dad," I said, my voice steady, "I have something to share too." I slid the envelope across the table. My brother's hand shot out and grabbed it before anyone else could. His face as he pulled out the letter went from curious to confused, to completely white. "Wait," Daniel whispered, his voice cracking. "You got accepted where? Comment justice if you believe she deserved this moment." The letter trembled in his hands. My father lunged across the table and snatched it away. The silence that followed was so complete I could hear my father's breathing change. He stared at the letter, his eyes scanning the words over and over like he was reading a different language. "Harvard Medical School," he read aloud, his voice flat. "Full academic scholarship. Margaret Chen. Class of—" He stopped. His face went from red to gray. "That's impossible," my mother said, finally looking up. "Margaret applied to medical school?" "Applied?" My father's voice was rising. "When did you apply? Why didn't you tell us?" "I told you," I said calmly. 3 years ago, when I said I wanted to be a doctor. You laughed and said I should focus on getting through community college first." Aunt Patricia leaned forward, trying to see the letter. "Is this real?" "Of course it's not real," Daniel said, but his voice lacked conviction. "This is some kind of joke." I pulled out my phone and opened my email. "Would you like to see the official acceptance email? Or maybe the financial aid package breakdown? They're offering me $180,000 in scholarship money over 4 years." My father's hand started shaking. The letter fluttered to the table. "Community college was strategic," I continued, my voice gaining strength. "I needed perfect grades, perfect test scores, perfect everything. Community college gave me small class sizes, direct professor access, and zero competition. I graduated with a 4.0 GPA. Then I spent the last 3 months taking my MCAT, volunteering at Boston General, and completing my medical school applications. Harvard wasn't my only acceptance. I also got into Johns Hopkins and Stanford. My grandmother made a choking sound. "You're lying," my father said, but he was already reaching for the letter again, studying the seal, the signature, the official letterhead. Type "yes" if you want to see all targets hit at once. Uncle James started laughing. Not meanly, genuine surprise and delight. "Margaret, this is incredible. Why didn't you say anything?" "Because no one asked," I said simply. When I mentioned medical school, Dad told me I was delusional. Mom said I should be realistic about my limitations. Daniel said I couldn't handle the pressure, so I stopped talking about it. I just did the work. "The MCAT is impossibly hard," Daniel said, his voice tight. "What did you score?" 528, I said. "Perfect score." Daniel's face went white again. He'd taken the LSAT twice and barely broken into the 160s. Good enough for Harvard Law with our father's alumni connections and a generous donation, but nothing extraordinary. "That's not possible," my father repeated, but his voice was weaker now. "You're not that smart. You've never been that smart." "I've always been this smart," I corrected. "You just never looked." My mother burst into tears. Not proud tears. Devastated tears. "How could you not tell me?" "I tried, Mom. For years. You never listened." The waiter approached nervously. "Should I bring out the appetizers?" "No," my father said sharply. "We're leaving." "We're not leaving," I said, and something in my voice made my father freeze halfway out of his chair. "We're going to sit here, and I'm going to explain exactly how this happened. Because this didn't start 3 years ago. This started when I was 7 years old and you forgot my birthday because Daniel had a soccer game." My father slowly sat back down. He looked like he'd been struck. "Margaret, don't do this," my mother whispered. "Not here." "Where else, Mom?" "At home, where you'll interrupt me to ask if Daniel needs anything. In the car, where Dad lectures me about wasting opportunities." I looked around the table. "No, everyone's here. Everyone who watched this happen, so everyone gets to hear it." Aunt Patricia exchanged glances with Uncle James. My grandparents looked uncomfortable, but didn't leave. "When I was 10, I continued, I won the state science fair. My project on cellular regeneration beat 200 other students. Dad didn't come to the ceremony because he was at Daniel's baseball practice. When I brought home the trophy, he said, 'That's nice,' and went back to watching TV. "That's not fair," my father started. "When I was 13, I scored in the 99th percentile on the standardized tests. The school counselor called you and said I was gifted, that I should be in advanced placement classes. You said no because it would be too much pressure. But when Daniel tested in the 85th percentile, you hired 3 tutors." My mother's tears were flowing faster now. "When I was 16, I applied to MIT's summer program. I got in. Full scholarship. Do you remember what you told me, Dad?" He was silent. "You said we couldn't afford to send me because we needed to save money for Daniel's college fund. I worked at Burger King all summer while Daniel went to basketball camp in California. Share this video so communities understand what was hiding. When I was 18, I told you I wanted to study pre-med. You laughed in my face. You said I wasn't cut out for it. That medical school was for exceptional students, not average ones like me. You told me to consider nursing, or maybe teaching, something more my speed. We were trying to be realistic," my father said weakly. "You were trying to make me small," I shot back, "because if I succeeded, it would mean you'd been wrong about me my entire life, and you couldn't handle being wrong." Daniel hadn't said a word. He was staring at his plate, his Harvard acceptance suddenly feeling less golden. "So I went to community college," I said, "and I studied 12 hours a day, and I worked night shifts at the hospital as a patient care assistant, and I saved every penny from my job because I knew I couldn't count on you for anything. And when I took my MCAT, I studied so hard I memorized 3,000 flashcards and could recite the entire organic chemistry curriculum backward." "Margaret," my mother started. "I'm not finished. The day I got my MCAT scores, I continued, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. I sat in my car in the parking lot and cried for an hour. Not because I was happy, I was, but because I realized I had no one to tell. No one who would actually care. So I called my roommate from community college, Rebecca, and she screamed so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. That's when I knew who my real family was. My grandmother finally spoke. Margaret, we didn't know. You knew. I interrupted gently. You all knew. Every Christmas when Dad bragged about Daniel's grades but never mentioned mine. Every family gathering when he showed off Daniel's trophies but kept my awards in a box in the garage. Every single time someone asked about us kids and he only talked about Daniel's future. You all knew, and none of you said anything. Uncle James shifted uncomfortably. Your father was always harder on you. We thought it was just his way. His way of what? Breaking me? I pulled out another envelope. This is my acceptance to Johns Hopkins. And this, I pulled out a third, is Stanford. 3 top 5 medical schools. All full scholarships. All want me specifically because of my research proposal on regenerative cardiology. My father's face was ashen now. What research? The research I've been conducting for the past 2 years at Boston General. The attending physician there, Dr. Rebecca Morrison, saw potential in me when I was just a patient care assistant. She mentored me, helped me design a study, co-authored a paper with me. We got published in the Journal of Cardiovascular Medicine last month. It's already been cited 14 times. Daniel's head snapped up. You got published? You can look it up. Novel Approaches to Myocardial Cell Regeneration Post-Infarction. I'm second author. Dr. Morrison insisted I take primary credit, but I wanted her name first since she's the attending. If this shocked you, comment karma below. My mother was sobbing openly now. Why didn't you tell me about any of this? I tried, Mom. 5 months ago, I told you I was working on something important at the hospital. You said, "That's nice, honey," and then asked me to pick up Daniel's dry cleaning. 3 months ago, I mentioned I was applying to medical schools. You said, "Don't get your hopes up," and changed the subject. I don't remember that, she whispered. I do. I remember every single time you chose him over me. Every time you sided with Dad when he put me down. Every time you smiled at his achievements and ignored mine. The waiter appeared again, looking desperate. I really need to know if you're staying for dinner. Bring the appetizers, Uncle James said firmly, and a bottle of your best champagne. We're celebrating Margaret. My father's head jerked up. We're not celebrating. Yes, we are. Uncle James cut him off. Richard, shut your mouth for once and listen to your daughter. The champagne arrived. Uncle James poured glasses for everyone except my parents. They sat frozen, watching as my aunt, uncle, and grandparents toasted me. To Margaret, my grandmother said, her voice cracking with emotion. I'm so sorry we didn't see you. To Margaret, they echoed. Daniel finally spoke. How much did the application fees cost? For 3 medical schools? About $500 total, I said. Plus MCAT registration, prep materials, travel for interviews, maybe $3,000 altogether. I could have, he started. You could have what? You've never had a job, Daniel. Dad pays for everything. Your car, your apartment, your spending money. You've never had to struggle for anything. That's not my fault, he said defensively. No, I agreed. It's Dad's. He created this. He made you dependent and made me independent. Guess which one of us is actually prepared for the real world? My father slammed his hand on the table. Enough. This is ridiculous. So you got into medical school. Congratulations. But don't act like you're better than your brother. I'm not acting like anything, I said calmly. I'm stating facts. Daniel got into Harvard Law with a 3.2 GPA and connection. I got into Harvard Medical School with a 4.0 and merit. There's a difference. You're being cruel, my mother said. I'm being honest. There's a difference there too. Aunt Patricia spoke up. Richard, she has a point. You've always favored Daniel. We've all seen it. I have not, my father protested. but his voice lacked conviction. You bought Daniel a BMW for his 21st birthday, I said. You know what I got? A card with $50 in it. When Daniel graduated high school, you threw him a party with 200 guests. When I graduated, we went to Olive Garden. Just the four of us. We were in a different financial situation, my father argued. No, you weren't. I've seen the bank statements. Mom left them out last Christmas. You've had the same income for 6 years. You just chose to spend it differently. My mother gasped. You went through our bank statements? They were on the kitchen counter. I needed to know if you could actually afford to help with my medical school if the scholarships fell through. Turns out you could have. Easily. You just didn't plan to. Comment exposed if you believe the truth needed to come out. Daniel pushed back from the table. I need air. Sit down, my father commanded. No, Daniel said, and something in his voice was different. Quieter. I need to process this. Margaret's right about some of it. I never had to work for anything. You made everything easy for me. Because you're exceptional, my father insisted. No, Dad, I'm not. I'm average. Maybe slightly above average. Margaret's the exceptional one. She always has been. I just got all the attention. The restaurant seemed to hold its breath. Even the background music felt quieter. You knew? I asked Daniel, my voice barely a whisper. Of course I knew, he said, meeting my eyes for the first time that night. I'm not blind. I'm just a coward. Daniel stood up slowly, his chair scraping against the floor. I'm going to tell you all something I should have said years ago. Margaret's not the only one who's been living a lie. I've been drowning in Dad's expectations my entire life, and I let Margaret suffer because it took the pressure off me. My father's face went from gray to red again. Daniel, sit down. No, Daniel said firmly. I'm 24 years old and I've never stood up to you. Not once. But Margaret just showed me what courage actually looks like, so I'm going to try. My mother reached for Daniel's hand, but he pulled away. Harvard Law didn't just accept me because of my LSAT scores, Daniel continued, his voice shaking. They accepted me because Dad donated $200,000 to their alumni fund. I saw the paperwork in his office last year. He bought my acceptance. The table erupted. My father tried to speak, but Uncle James cut him off. You did what? It's a standard development donation, my father said quickly. Many families do it. $200,000? My grandmother said, her voice sharp. Richard, that's Margaret's inheritance from your father. He left equal amounts for both grandchildren's education. The room spun. What? My grandmother's face was hard. Your grandfather left each of you $200,000 in a trust for higher education. It was supposed to be used when you went to college. I never got any money, I said, my voice hollow. I've been working 3 jobs to save for medical school. Because your father told me you used yours for community college, my grandmother said, turning to glare at my father. He said you spent it all. Community college cost $7,000, I said. Total. For both years. Where's the other $193,000? My father's silence was answer enough. You stole from her, Uncle James said, standing up. You stole her inheritance and gave it to Daniel. It was an investment in the family's future, my father said desperately. Daniel's law career will benefit everyone. I'm not even sure I want to be a lawyer, Daniel said quietly. I only applied because you wanted me to. My actual dream was to be a teacher. But you said that was beneath our family. Type truth. If you want to see how deep this goes. My mother finally found her voice. Richard, tell me you didn't steal from our daughter. It was a reallocation, he said. Margaret wasn't going to use it properly. She wasn't going anywhere. I made an executive decision. An executive decision? I repeated, my voice dangerous. That money was legally mine. You committed fraud. You can't prove anything, my father said quickly. It's family money. It stays in the family. Actually, my grandmother said, pulling out her phone, I can prove everything. I have all the original trust document, and I'm calling my lawyer right now. Mom, don't, my father pleaded. Think about the family. I am thinking about the family, she said coldly. That's why I'm fixing your mistake. My grandmother's fingers moved across her phone screen with surprising speed for someone in her 70s. Gerald, it's Patricia Chen. I need you to meet me at my house tonight. No, it can't wait. It's about Richard and the educational trust. Mom, please. My father begged, his composure completely shattered. Let's discuss this privately. You had 20 years to discuss things privately, she snapped. You chose to lie instead. Gerald, I'll see you at 8. She ended the call and turned to me. Margaret, I need copies of everything. Your community college transcripts, tuition payments, medical school acceptances, everything that proves where your money actually went. I have it all digitized, I said, still processing what was happening. I can email it tonight. Good. We'll sort this out legally. You'll get every penny back, with interest. My mother looked like she might faint. Patricia, surely we can handle this within the family. Handle what, Linda? My grandmother's voice could have cut glass. The fact that my son stole from his own daughter? The fact that he destroyed trust documents and lied to me for years? The fact that he systematically broke down one child while artificially inflating the other? I did what I thought was best, my father said weakly. You did what was easiest, Uncle James corrected. You picked a favorite and doubled down when you should have admitted you were wrong. And now look where we are. The appetizers arrived. No one touched them. Aunt Patricia leaned toward me. Margaret, where are you staying tonight? You shouldn't go back to your parents' house. I have an apartment near the hospital, I said. I moved out 6 months ago. They didn't notice. My mother's face crumbled. You moved out? In March, I confirmed. I packed all my things, rented a studio, and left a note on the kitchen counter. You texted me 3 days later asking if I could pick up groceries. I don't remember a note, my mother whispered. It was next to Daniel's acceptance letter. I guess you only saw what you wanted to see. Share this story if families need to hear this truth. Daniel sat back down heavily. I'm going to defer Harvard. Take a year. Figure out what I actually want. Maybe teach English overseas or something. You'll do no such thing, my father said automatically, then caught himself. I mean, Daniel, you worked hard for this. No, Dad, you worked hard for this. I just existed. This is insane, my father said, looking around the table desperately. You're all acting like I'm some kind of monster. I provided for this family. I gave you everything. You gave Daniel everything, I corrected. You gave me criticism and neglect. I was preparing you for the real world, he insisted. Making you tough. Making you independent. You were breaking me down, I said simply. There's a difference. But here's the thing, Dad. It didn't work. I'm not broken. I'm stronger than you ever imagined I could be. Strong enough to do this without you. Strong enough to succeed despite you. Margaret. He reached across the table. I pulled back. Don't. We're past that now. The dinner continued in fragments. Conversation started and stopped. My grandmother made 3 more phone calls. To her lawyer, her accountant, and someone she referred to only as the trustee. Each call ended with her looking more determined and my father looking more desperate. Uncle James ordered more champagne. We're not leaving until we properly celebrate Margaret's achievements, he announced. 27 years overdue, but better late than never. My father tried to leave twice. Both times my grandmother stopped him with a single look. Tell her about the other thing, Daniel said suddenly. If we're burning it all down, tell her everything. My father's face went white. Daniel, don't. What other thing? I asked, my stomach dropping. Daniel looked at me, his eyes filled with something that might have been guilt or might have been relief. The recommendation letters, for your medical school applications. You asked Dad to write one as a family physician reference, remember? I remembered. 3 years ago, when I first mentioned medical school, my father said he'd be happy to write a recommendation as someone who'd known me my entire life. I'd given him the forms and never heard about it again. He never sent it, Daniel said. He told me he wrote it, but threw it away. Said you'd never get in anyway, so why waste time on the paperwork? The restaurant tilted. What? I'm sorry, Daniel said. I should have told you. I should have said something. That's why you needed Dr. Morrison, my mother said slowly, the pieces falling together for her. You had no family support at all. Dr. Morrison wrote all 3 of my recommendation letters, I confirmed, my voice mechanical. She coordinated with my professors, combined their input with her observations, and submitted them as primary recommendations. I never told her why I didn't have family references. I was too ashamed. You should have been ashamed, Aunt Patricia said, looking at my father. Richard, I've defended you for years, made excuses when other people questioned your parenting. But this? She stood up. James, we're leaving. Margaret, you'll come to our house for Sunday dinner from now on. Every week. Non-negotiable. Patricia. My father started. Save it. She cut him off. I don't want to hear your voice right now. Come on, James. They left. The table felt smaller without them. My grandmother checked her phone. Gerald can see us in an hour. Margaret, can you meet me at my house? Yes, I said immediately. Good. Bring everything. Bank statements if you have access, tuition records, work pay stubs. We'll document every penny you spent that should have come from trust funds. This is a family matter, my father said desperately. It doesn't need lawyers. It stopped being a family matter when you committed fraud, my grandmother said coldly. It's a legal matter now. And Margaret, for what it's worth, your grandfather would be so proud of you. He always said you had something special. I'm sorry I didn't see it clearly until tonight. Tears burned my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. Not here. Not in front of him. The check arrived. No one reached for it. Finally, Uncle James, who hadn't left after all, just stepped outside to make a call, came back in and threw down his credit card. I've got it, he said. Consider it Margaret's graduation present, the one she should have gotten years ago. James, you don't have to, my mother started. I want to, he said firmly. Margaret, I'm also setting up a meeting with you and my financial advisor. We're going to make sure you have everything you need for medical school, regardless of what happens with the trust situation. That's not necessary, I said, though my voice cracked. It is necessary, he insisted, because someone should have done it 7 years ago. Someone should have invested in you the way Richard invested in Daniel. Better late than never. My father was staring at his plate, his whole body rigid. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in the past hour. I think, my mother said quietly, I need to ask Margaret something, and I need you to be honest with me. I waited. Did you ever love us? Even a little? The question hung in the air. Around us, the restaurant continued. Other families celebrating, couples laughing, the normal sounds of life going on. I loved the version of you I thought existed, I said finally. The parents I hoped you'd become if I just tried hard enough, achieved enough, proved myself enough. But the real you? The parents who actually raised me? I paused. I don't know if I ever really knew you well enough to love you. My mother started crying again, but these tears were different. Quieter, more aware. If you believe she deserved justice, comment, justice. What happens now? Daniel asked. After tonight, I mean. Do we just stop being a family? We were never really a family, I said. We were a hierarchy. Dad at the top, you in the middle, me at the bottom. That's not family. That's a structure. And I'm done propping it up. So that's it? My father finally spoke, his voice hoarse. You're just going to walk away? After everything we've provided? Provided? I repeated. Dad, you provided a house and food. That's basic parenting. That's not something you get credit for. You're supposed to do that. What you didn't provide was love, support, encouragement, or basic respect. So yes, I'm walking away from that. You'll regret this, he said, but it sounded hollow. No, I said simply. I won't. Because the life I'm walking toward is better than anything you ever offered me. I stood up. My grandmother stood with me. Margaret, Daniel said quickly. Can I call you? Sometimes? Not right away, but eventually? I looked at him, really looked at him. He looked smaller somehow, less golden. Maybe, I said. If you figure out who you are without Dad's money and expectations, if you become real, then maybe. He nodded, accepting that. Linda, my grandmother said to my mother, if you want to make this right, you know where to find me. But it starts with choosing your daughter over your husband's pride. My mother said nothing. We left. The night air hit me like a baptism. Cool, clean, real. My grandmother's hand was steady on my arm as we walked to her car. How long have you known? I asked her. About Dad. About all of it. I suspected for years, she admitted. But suspecting and knowing are different things. I should have investigated sooner. I should have protected you. You're protecting me now, I said. That counts. We drove to her house in silence. Her lawyer was already there, a sharp-eyed man in his 60s who'd brought a briefcase full of documents. We spent 3 hours laying everything out. Every payment, every withdrawal, every lie. This is an open and shut case, Gerald said finally. Richard violated the trust terms in multiple ways. Margaret, you'll get your money back, plus interest, plus penalties. He'll probably face legal consequences as well. I don't want to destroy him, I said quietly. I just want what's mine. Sometimes those are the same thing, Gerald said, not unkindly. But that's for the courts to decide. I left my grandmother's house at midnight. My phone had been vibrating all evening. Texts from my mother, my father, even Daniel. I hadn't looked at any of them. Except one. Dr. Morrison had texted, "Heard from your uncle. Whatever happened tonight. Remember? You earned every single thing you've achieved. No one can take that from you." I sat in my car and finally let myself cry. Not sad tears, not even happy tears. Just release. Years of pressure and pain and fighting flowing out of me. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Margaret Chen?" A woman's voice asked. "Yes? This is Dr. Sarah Williams from Harvard Medical School admissions. I apologize for calling so late, but I wanted to personally welcome you to our program. Your application was extraordinary. Your research on cardiac regeneration was some of the most innovative work we've seen in years. We're honored to have you." 3-part CTA. Hit that like button, comment which moment shocked you most, and subscribe to see more stories about overcoming family betrayal. Thank you, I managed. That means more than you know. I also wanted to mention, she continued, we've had several faculty members express interest in your research. You'll have your pick of mentors when you arrive. That's unusual for an incoming student. After we hung up, I sat in my car and looked at the Harvard letter again. The crimson seal, the heavy paper, the words that changed everything. I thought about my father's face when he read it. The shock, the disbelief, the dawning realization that he'd been wrong about me for 27 years. I thought about Daniel, admitting he was living a lie. My mother, finally seeing what she'd been ignoring. My grandmother, ready to fight for me. But mostly, I thought about myself. The girl who worked 3 jobs, studied until exhaustion, fought for every single achievement. The woman who became a doctor not because of her family, but despite them. I started my car and drove toward my apartment, toward my future, toward the life I'd built with my own hands, and I smiled. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't dramatic or loud. Sometimes it's just succeeding, brilliantly, undeniably, on your own terms. If this story resonated with you, drop a comment below telling me which moment hit hardest. Subscribe for more real stories about triumph over family dysfunction. Your support helps these truths reach the people who need to hear them. Thank you for being here.